Hello and welcome to yet another interesting episode of this tutorial, and it's provided to you by the KAWA Uganda team. Today you want to understand and unpack more on what happens in the designer, and that is most especially what happens in the experimental period. Want to understand the different components that make up the experimental period, and as still to understand the different differences that exist between this and as well the similarities. And from the name itself, experimental always gives us a direction that there is always going to be room for other limitations. There is going to be room for changes and as well updates in the future. So when you're looking at the different components here, we have the chatbot, we have the Firebase DB, then we have the image bot. When you are going direct straight to our very first one, that is the chatbot, it is a non-visible component. What does it mean? It means it doesn't show on the viewer screen, but rather it shows here on all components, as you can see here. Now, when you're looking at the chatbot, this component always allows our app to interact with a pre-trained chatbot. You can always send the text inputs to the chatbot, and as well it can respond based on the training data, based on how the source has been trained to respond. This can be used to create the conversational interface within your app, and also to provide the information that you can need, from just simple answering questions to other things that can be engaging to the different users. Always you have to make sure that in your mind you have it that because this is a chatbot, we have so many other Google platforms that give us answers. So incorporating this will definitely require some internet costs and also the connectivity. So for a user to be in position to use this feature on your app, you have to include the aspect of connectivity, that these capabilities of the chatbot will depend on the underlying service that it connects to, and as well this will definitely require some internet access. So for the chatbot, that's what happens for the chatbot. Now when you go into the second component of our experimental period, it's giving us here that this is a Firebase DB. It's an experimental feature which may change in future or break. So it is always giving us a direction and an instruction that we have to be ready for whatever it's going to happen in the future. That the package apps built within this component may not function into an indefinite figure. So that is something we have to understand, that because technology is dynamic, it's always changes, it keeps on changing here and there. So for the Firebase DB, this component provides a way for our app to store and also sometimes to retrieve data from the Google Firebase real-time databases, and it is a functionality that we can think of when we are incorporating it into our app. The Firebase is always hosted in a cloud, and the databases that allow it for real-time data synchronization. These are all the figures that we can have the synchronization across all the different connected clients. So if you are developing or designing an app that is going to help users to incredibly connect, you can think of this, that this Firebase DB incredibly is so much important and helps us for building apps that require users to share some data, and as well for users for apps that require collaboration in real time. You can think of integrating the component which is called the Firebase DB. But first you need to set up a Firebase project and configure your App Inventor for it to easily connect in case the user closes the program or the user exits it for a certain period of time. You can think of creating that Firebase that can do all the configuration for your app. So now when you're looking at our very last component of the experimental palette, we have the image boot. Now here is also giving us a hint, a note that image boot is also an experimental feature that will change in the future. Its usage may be restricted, and these are all the information that you need. So in case you're using that image boot, you have to have that in your mind, that technology is dynamic, things keep on changing here and there. So this is more similar to the chatbot that we had at first, but the only difference is that now this one gives us the interface for images to be in position to be recognized and read. So in case you want a synchronization that works on an image to generate a certain text out of it, you can think of the image boot. This is the only difference that exists between this one, but it's more similar to the chatbot. This one only focuses on images, and as for the other one, it focuses on a variety of things. So on the image boot, the experimental components are likely to give us a platform to allow your app to interact with an AI model that can easily understand and also respond to the images based on the settings that have been incorporated. So sometimes you might be able to send an image to the image bot and also receive a back description, sometimes get the analysis. You can as well get the information about the image that you have just shared, and as well you can rely on this, but having it in your mind that this will definitely require an internet connectivity. So these are the different three components that are evident in the experimental palette. So thank you for being part of this. We can work on the different commands on our blog section for the different experimental components that we had. So you just come here and now work on the different blocks, then give the commands to your app. So that is that about the designer. That is that about the experimental palette. Thank you for being part of this presentation.